Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the 54th episode of the Online Tennis Podcast. Today I am joined by Vansh. How you doing, Vansh?
Doing awesome, Jack. It's been a great fortnight at Wimbledon, and super pumped. Excited to have a chat today.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, post Wimbledon Blues, we're trying to sort you guys out by doing a little bit of a review of the final that we just saw between Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios. I'm sure you guys already know the results, so I'm assuming there'll be no spoilers. We're going to go over the whole match basically. Our feel for the match, what we think maybe happened during the match, tactically, moments of the match and stuff, and our thoughts on the future maybe for both players as well. Sound good, Vanch?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Okay, I don't have this very well notified in front of me. I've got a big sort of splatter of notes. So I'm wondering where the best place to start is. Maybe the best place to start is the first set. What happened there? The result in the end was Djokovic in 4 sets. Kyrgios was able to sneak the first set from under Djokovic's nose, and then the last three kind of went how you'd expect, I would say. But yeah, first set, did that come as a surprise to you, Vanch, or were you kind of expecting that maybe?
I was actually expecting Kyrgios to come out, not show many nerves because he's obviously has the confidence. He's beaten Djokovic twice before. Obviously, those were 5.5 years ago, and a lot of context is necessary for those matches in Acapulco and Indian Wells. No, but I felt like he had a great serving rhythm in the first set, and he had a really high first serve percentage. I think it was around 72%, if I recall correctly. And he had such a great rhythm going on the first serve. And Djokovic, of course, was as he's done this fortnight, he's struggled a little bit in his opening sets, kind of finding his groove early from the baseline, and just was struggling to read Nick's serve in the beginning because I thought Nick was doing such a great job of mixing in the wide serve, going down the tee, keeping Djokovic guessing, and really just hitting all of his spots. And so it was tough for Djokovic to get a great read, as stretchy and lengthy of a returner as he is, and how deep he normally returns. That came for him, came quite handy for him later on in the match, but it just wasn't quite clicking the way he would have liked in the first set. And obviously, the key game in the first set was a 2-all, where I thought Kyrgios actually played quite tactically smart in that game. He really mixed it up. He used the short slice a little bit. He brought Djokovic forward, and then I think he hit that key backhand down the line pass. It wasn't a winner, but it was Djokovic was forced to hit an awkward forehand volley, which he hit in the net. And then obviously he was taking his chances on the return. We all know his backhand return is definitely the stronger side. Um, so he was going after that and stepping in, and eventually he got the double fault from Djokovic, and then that was the first set. But I think I sort of made like a prediction on Twitter that it would be sort of Djokovic finding his way out in four, kind of like he did in the Berrettini match last year. I
Yeah.
just felt like when they got into baseline exchanges, and once Djokovic got the return in deep and he was able to uh, pin Kyrgios back and sort of get into the exchanges he wanted to from the back of the court, it was going to work out in his favor. And it just took a while for him to figure that out. But I thought the first set was quite strong from Nick. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with loads of that. I'm trying to remember everything said there because I had a few points to flesh out there for sure. I think one of the biggest things was Djokovic's tactics were pretty spot on at the start, but it was just execution. So as you say, Kyrgios's backhand return a little bit stronger, than his forehand return. Easier to rush the Kyrgios forehand. So if you go in with pace, you could get a missed return. And certainly on breakpoint, Djokovic had the right idea, maybe taking a little bit of a calculated risk on second serve in the ad court to attack the forehand. Missed though, and I think maybe a lot of people who aren't aware of Djokovic's game maybe thought that looked like a pretty cheap error, but I think he knew what he was doing there. He was still pretty switched on at the start of the match, even if he hadn't quite gone into full gear for sure. But yeah, of course, only one break of serve is all it takes a lot of the time against Kyrgios. I thought at the same time, the start of the match, for me, the first set, he was winning the longer rallies. I thought Kyrgios was certainly in that first set, and I think it was a lot of the sort of being able to mix up the height of the ball, pepper Djokovic with low balls off the backhand, asking him to generate pace from very tough positions, which he did eventually. He was eventually sort of able to do that, but start of the match, I think that was very smart of Kyrgios not to take on too much risk and actually just sort of rally temperament, keep that steady, and ask Djokovic to do more than maybe he was comfortable with, relying on maybe being a little bit more nervy. So yeah, I agree with a lot of that, Vanch. At the same time, Djokovic was able to step up his game. I loved that stat you posted on Twitter today about Djokovic's average sets dropped in Grand Slams, because it's very important to remember that Djokovic doesn't he often doesn't start matches as comfortably as he would like, I would say, and compared to the other two who can be a lot more clinical in their execution. Is that fair to say? Do you think? Or
Yeah. I mean, rarely. I don't think he's ever won a major. He actually hasn't never won a major without dropping any sets at all. And usually sometimes he sort of needs that sort of boost when he loses the first set to just sort of sharpen himself up a bit and just go into lockdown mode. And that desperation is eventually what he's able to will out of himself. And that's such a key part of what makes Djokovic great, is sort of managing the ebbs and flows of best of five sets. And he's really, I'd say, a master at that now. And I like the point you made a lot about Kyrgios hanging with Djokovic in the baseline rallies early on, because I did feel like Djokovic was able to stay with Kyrgios was able to stay with Djokovic in the first set as a sort of backhand. I thought the backhand cross court rallies would be quite key in this match, and to see whether if Djokovic is the first to pull the trigger down the line, or attack the Kyrgios forehand and sort of make him hit those loopier forehands kind of
yeah,
on the run. And he was having a hard time doing that early in the first set, because Kyrgios' backhand, it stays quite low and it skids on the grass. So
mm-hmm.
it puts Djokovic sort of in a more sort of has forced to step in inside the court, where he's maybe not as comfortable generating pace
yeah,
as he is, if the ball, like, let's say, explodes off of Kyrgios' racket, and then he can just redirect and use his great precision. But he worked that out eventually, and
yeah.
things began to change.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there about having to step in. I think one of my favourite ways Djokovic was able to counter that and sort of counter low balls from Kyrgios and sort of neutral rally temperament from Kyrgios was drop shots. And for
Yep.
once, it actually came up good for Djokovic. We have a running joke in our family that the Djokovic plop shot is probably one of his most choice shots. And when you see him using that, you pretty much always question his tactics. But in this case, it was a really good time to start using it, because I thought when things were neutral and even, and you want to get Nick moving as well, that's a bonus of it. The drop shots are a really good tactic, because
Yeah.
you can use that off of low balls. You don't necessarily have to be too risky with it. It's like a calculated bit of aggression at the right times. I was really, really impressed with that tactic. I thought it was a key to the
Yeah.
match, actually.
Yeah, spot on. Like, he executed it really well, and he had such great feel on it, and he chose it at the right times too, which is key. And it definitely forced Nick to to dig out quite a few uncomfortable shots.
I think I actually don't. I cannot think of one off the top of my head that Kyrgios came out on top of. I think Djokovic got pretty much everyone bang on. I could be wrong about that, but I can't remember one anyway. I don't think. So yeah, the rest of the match, sort of certainly the taking advantage of the Kyrgios forehand return was a massive one for me as well. One of the biggest points that comes to mind was 5-6, 30 all. Kyrgios misses a pretty standard second serve return. That was off a forehand, and I think Novak took a little bit of risk just rushing him a little bit in that wing. In fact, it wasn't even that risky a second serve, I would say. I think it was sort of mid-90s, and
Yeah.
Kyrgios ballooned it basically. That's one of the biggest things for me. I think Kyrgios is a good returner. I wish I had the stats in front of me, because I know he's not statistically a good returner per se, but when he switches himself on, he can get into return games, and I certainly know that this year he's stepped that stat up a lot. But Djokovic obviously still able to take advantage of that, and it's a shame. He needs some sort of chip return on that side. I think he does use it every now and then, but I would have liked to have seen that a lot more often in this match. I think that could have got him into a few more rallies. At the same time, you're always fighting that sort of tightrope between wanting to be aggressive but also not give away too many errors against Djokovic, and that pretty much explained the tiebreak and what happened there. In the end, Djokovic didn't even really have to try that hard for Vansh in the tiebreak. It
Yeah.
just kind of given to him in a way.
Yeah, for sure. He went up 2-love, and then he actually missed an easy 1-2 and hit a forehand in the net, and that was the mini break back for Kyrgios. And then from there on, I mean, he was just the more solid of the two, and ran away with it 7-3. So it was quite
Yeah,
decisive in the end, actually, in the tiebreak.
yeah. Two sort of bigger moments as well I want to talk about. They touched on a few there, but love 40 in the second set. against Djokovic's serve. That was certainly a very telling moment. Was that 4-all or maybe 5-4? 5-4, I think, maybe to get the break back. I could be wrong, Vanch. Must be to get the break
Yeah.
back. There's no way it was like 4-all love 40.
Yeah, in the second set, uh, he had 5-3, and then Kyrgios had 4 break points,
Yes, yeah. He
and
had 4 break points.
it
Yeah,
was love 40, and he saved them, I think, but two unreturnable serves again to the Kyrgios forehand, which was such a bread and butter for him in key moments. And then he saved another. I think Kyrgios missed a backhand in the net.
yeah.
It was too flat and not enough spin.
Yeah,
And
generally, if Kyrgios is going to miss his backhand, it tends to be in the net. Just because he likes to use very little margin over the top of the net to trouble his opponents. So fair enough.
I thought on the fourth set point actually Kyrgios had a good return, and they got into a good rally, and then Djokovic beautifully played the drop shot, and took Kyrgios by surprise, and he couldn't get to it fast enough,
Mhm.
and so he saved all 4 break points in that game, and went on to hold. And that time, Nick obviously was in a bit of a struggling a bit mentally to gather himself back, and was having all these exchanges with his box, and telling them to get up and demanding more from them, and
Yeah,
you know he was starting to lose it a little bit there for a while, and I thought
yeah.
it might bleed over a little bit into the third set, but his serve actually kept him in the match for quite a long time.
It did, yeah. The only other moment I was going to talk about actually was 40-love in the third set,
Yeah,
where again, I wouldn't say Kyrgios did too much wrong, but obviously he felt like I think he said something about his camp relaxing and sort of blamed them for that at 40-love. They were like, "Oh, the game's over." He really does talk a lot of rubbish at times, I gotta say. But yeah, that was another
yeah.
key moment for me. Obviously, 40-love in the third set at like 4-all or something like that. So crucial.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was close. It was a close match. I'm probably maybe I'm moving us forward a bit here, but I don't know how you actually felt about it. Did you feel like Kyrgios ever had a chance, or
Not, to be honest, after the first set, it never really felt that way, because
yeah,
I felt like maybe at 5-3, if he converted one of those break points, maybe it could have gotten a little bit tighter and more interesting, and maybe the second set, maybe Djokovic could have pulled that out in a tie break, or maybe it could have been
yeah,
a bit tighter, maybe that 5-6 point, if he maybe manages to get to a set point or
yeah.
something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I would say it felt a little bit more. It felt a little bit unpredictable compared to the Berrettini match last year at Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
Just because in that context, you feel like if Djokovic can just get it to Berrettini's backhand, then he's you know he feels like he can win most of the baseline rallies. But Kyrgios, obviously, he has a few other tools in his bag, and he's able to he's a bit more mercurial as a player, just with his
Yeah,
temperament and his shot selection. So you just never quite know. And then I think Kyrgios, he was able to keep himself in the match with the 30 aces that he hit, and so he got a lot of free points and unreturnables. But it wasn't enough in the end. And I always felt like Djokovic was just more solid. He was just limiting the unforced errors a lot better. He was uh, more precise on his ground strokes. He was just the more calm and more composed player out there, and I think that just really paid off in the important moments. So I never really felt like Kyrgios was going to win,
yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
perhaps there was a potential to maybe have a set point to sneak out another set. But it's it's similar to a lot of the matches I guess Kyrgios has played against. Top 10 players at majors, apart from the
Yeah,
Tsitsipas match in the last
yeah. You had the
five or
stats
six
in that,
years.
didn't you, Vance? Yeah. What was the? Can you remember the numbers, Vance? Because I remember I think it was you that posted them, wasn't it? Was it 317 or
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah, I think he's 3-15 in majors in best of five, and
That's it.
then 2 Davis Cup matches as well. And obviously the 3 wins, the 2014 match against Nadal, which was his breakthrough, and then in 2015 he beats Raonic, and then he beats Tsitsipas here.
Mm-hmm.
So those are his three in
Yeah.
majors, and
Wow.
he has a very good record in best of three. Actually, he's like 22-19.
Yeah.
So it's you can see the disparity, and obviously I think Kyrgios this time around, definitely his fitness was better. He definitely improved, I'd say, in that department. I think the Nadal withdrawal actually, maybe helped him a bit, just because he
Yeah.
was he was fresher a bit, physically, and a lot of the times the physicality and durability has just been in question. Same with his work ethic, and just
Yeah.
how he goes prepares himself for these encounters. But um, Yeah, I feel like this is Kyrgios, when he's playing and trying as best as he can and as much as he wants to win. I think these are the type of matches you're going to get against top 10 players, like very respectably close and very tight, and he's going to have chances, but at the end of the day, they just have a little bit more.
Yeah, in other words, it did kind of go as expected, because it kind of did for me as well, I would say. I honestly don't feel like throughout the entirety of the tournament, Novak had to play that well to win any of
I
his
agree.
matches. Yeah, like, this wasn't even like last year, to be honest. I thought he played better against Berrettini for sure last year. Shapovalov was an absolute clinic. Shapovalov played amazingly in that match and
Yeah,
somehow ended up straight sets. Um, yeah, I thought generally he didn't have to try that hard, and there's so many advantages he has over Kyrgios that they kind of just sort of worked themselves out in the end by law of averages sort of thing. So even if it had taken five, I'm pretty confident Djokovic would have got there eventually, definitely. Like matches, I just want to talk about the match against Sinner, for example, very quickly. Like I felt like just he, the idea that he could drop the first two sets and then just turn it on and that's like normal is just insane. And okay, yeah, although he didn't play that amazingly this tournament, stuff like that, it's just like such he just exudes legendary nowadays, if without sounding corny. Like I don't know how to say it. He's just like he's very he's untouchable in
uh,
some ways, on
yeah.
grass at
I think
least.
it's so amazing because I feel like his floor is just as awesome really as his peak, because there's just no discernible weakness. I feel like it's just it's so perfectly calibrated, his technique and
Mm-hmm.
his balance and his precision, and you just feel like there's very little that will break down under pressure in the most
Mm-hmm.
important moments. And against Sinner, one thing that he did extremely well was he really turned on his first serve. I think he won like 45 out of 49 first serve points at the
Yeah, that's
last three
exactly
sets,
it.
just
Yeah,
ridiculous. And I think he made a total of 13 unforced errors in those three sets, and you know
yeah,
I think only 10 of them were off the ground. It was just a joke how it became two different matches really
yeah.
in the Sinner match.
It's crazy. It really is, and I'm struggling to pick a contender for the future. This is a nice segue. So, first, what do you think of Kyrgios's future Grand Slam prospects? In all honesty, Vanch.
Well, to be honest, it depends on. I obviously feel like grass is his best chance. Because he's able to. I guess he's able to protect his body better, which is
Mm-hmm.
which is definitely a key. And obviously, he had many matches coming into this tournament, so he obviously feels confident he can beat a lot of the players on this surface, especially the current grass field. I'd say. But when it comes to the physicality of the U.S. Open or um, obviously the clay season is not something he's really interested in. So it really just depends on his motivation and how much he takes care of his body and how much he's able to get his ranking up. Because if he's not able to do that and he's not able to be seated in these majors, then he's going to end up drawing a Medvedev or a Nadal or Djokovic in
Yeah,
the second or third round, and then it's going to be some great tennis. He's going to play amazing for about 30, 45 minutes. You're going to get some exciting moments. Maybe could get close to a fifth set, but it's gonna be like what we saw today and what we saw against
yeah.
Medvedev at the Australian Open, which is a pretty good result. It's respectable, but it's not giving him possibly the best chance to go the furthest in these majors. And so
Mm-hmm.
uh, I guess we'll just keep seeing a lot of he goes about it his own way, and he doesn't have a coach, and there's obviously he's had a good year, like so far. I'd say this is probably one of his best years. He's 21-6 on the year, and if you look at his actual losses, they're not bad losses. He's lost to Djokovic, Medvedev, Sinner. I guess one loss to Opelka and Hurkacz. Like these are not bad losses on paper, but it's just a question of whether he can actually replicate this for a whole season and his body can hold up. And it's uh, you know in some ways this was a breakout moment for him at 27, but uh, I'm not really sure what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a
I'm
long-winded
very
answer, but
no, it's a good answer, and I'm very. I think the biggest thing for me that you said there was the fact he needs to protect his body. I think the fitness of Kyrgios is a factor. I think people kind of
yeah,
forget that. I would say he's not going to turn up at every slam and have a massive chance. I think one of the biggest things for me as well is you need to be in a pretty good position to do well a slam, and he was pretty lucky in this
He
tournament. I
really
don't think
was.
that's unfair to say. I think he
I
was
think his
pretty.
draw was quite favorable. I mean, the
Yeah,
Tsitsipas match was the only sort of match where even that one, he was the favorite going in, and
yeah, exactly. But the
by a
only
slim
member of
margin.
the, I was going to say the only member of the top 10 that you'd be like, Kyrgios probably will win that. I think almost every other player, you'd
Right.
have maybe thought he was going to be second best, apart from Casper Ruud. Um,
Yeah.
I
And it could
yeah,
have
he
not
got
happened in the first round. He had a break point at 5-all in the fifth against Paul Jubb had a break point at 5-all in the
yeah,
fifth.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
If
So I
if
mean,
that goes another way.
exactly, yeah. He only just survived. Krajinovic, obviously, the Queen's result is pretty misleading. Nakashima as well, not the best return in the world. Barely ever had a chance when Kyrgios actually switched it on. I would say I don't think that's unfair to
Yeah.
say. Nakashima's a good player, but that's kind of how it played out. And Christian Garin, obviously a pretty surprise quarter finalist, and then you get straight into the final, missing the semi final. This was a really, really good draw for Kyrgios,
Yeah,
and
I agree. Especially, and you look at Matteo Berrettini is someone that I had just
yeah,
penciled into the semis when I saw his draw, and unfortunately he caught COVID, and we didn't get to see him play Kyrgios or any of the
yeah,
other players in his section. Like even for Di Minore, I'd say he missed a slight chance there. I think it would have been great for him to get to the quarters, and we could have seen Kyrgios play against Di Minore. It would have been,
yeah.
I think. I think more interesting than the Green match. Although the Green match, I think
That's fair.
Green did well to keep it close as well. But yeah, I agree with you on the favorable draw for sure.
Yeah. With that said, I don't think he's going to be making any sort of breakouts at any other slams anytime soon because of fitness. I think Wimbledon will be a chance in the future, but again, he would have to get pretty lucky for the same sort of result to pan out if he continues on the path he is currently on. Like he doesn't take fitness that seriously. He still has a sort of half-baked schedule. I don't see it happening more than once. So for me, my gut feeling is Kyrgios is not the new king of the Grand Slams. Definitely, I don't think that's
Yeah,
unfair
for
to
sure.
say.
I would actually be kind of surprised if he got to another. I'd be surprised if he got to another major final at this
Yeah,
point in
so
his
would I.
career. I think. Yeah,
So would I, exactly. I mean, he's done it now. You'll have bragging rights over that, of course. But yeah, I also think that Vanch. With that said, have you got anybody in mind for Wimbledon in the future? Because there will be a point where Djokovic has to hang up his hat. Federer certainly is just about there. Nadal isn't really obviously the one to take up that mantle either. Is there anybody else you can think of? I actually was very impressed with Sinner's performance.
yeah. That was
Um,
the first name that came to my mind. Honestly, was Yannick Sinner.
mhm.
I think he's a great returner, which bodes really really well on grass because obviously not too many guys have that serve return dynamic down, and he really showed
Yeah.
that in the Alcaraz match. I think he has probably the best running forehand in the game right now, which is quite
Yeah.
a compliment.
Mhm.
I think he defends extremely well, and he can slide on the grass, which not many players can do. It's very, he has sort of some Djokovician qualities with a skiing background, and how
Yeah.
he's able to maintain balance, and his footwork is very good on the grass, and obviously he can get better at the net. He can become a much better volleyer. He can get more miles per hour on the serve. But I feel like he's only 20. He's only 20 right now,
He's
and
20. Yeah, he is only
this
20.
was only his second Wimbledon main draw, and he made the quarters and came through a really tough draw. I was very impressed with how he handled Isner, the composure in that match, and the to get a break in each of the three sets, or I guess one set was a tie break, but
Yeah, one. But
uh, and right away he had a tough draw. He played Stan Wawrinka in the first round, um, and then he had Alcaraz in the fourth round, which was I would say that was the match which that was the best match of Sinner's career
oh, definitely.
in a
Yeah, it
major
was
for
so
sure.
impressive. Yeah.
I'd say that's his biggest win. Um, but yeah, so I look at him in the future, and I think he can do well on all the surfaces, but grass really seems to suit his game.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I'm
Yeah,
surprisingly, obviously, I'm sure you'll be aware of Vance, but some people back home, at home, sorry, might not be aware of the fact that Sinner didn't have any grass court wins going into Wimbledon, so it
yeah,
did come as a bit of a surprise. I still think maybe serving was to do with that, but he served amazingly in a lot of his matches. He spot served a lot better than he used to. Definitely, that was a problem last year. Not so much this year, certainly, in his Wimbledon run. So yeah, I'm very excited for how he could do. Obviously, Alcaraz, yeah,
Alcaraz
he's
is
not
still
there.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I thought he's still got stuff to improve, and it was very obvious from the Sinner match. Surprisingly, the returning, I thought the serving would be
mm,
more of a problem, but yeah, the returning needed a bit of work. Maybe if you rush the Alcaraz return, certainly on the forehand, you still will get a bit of results at this point. I don't think that'll last long, so maybe still Alcaraz. Yeah, he might have completely changed his game by next year for grass. I would not be surprised the guy's a freak. So it's quite likely. I don't know. So yeah, Sinner and Alcaraz for me as well, I think, Vansh. Two pretty obvious answers, but Sinner, certainly. He's top for me, I think.
I think I'd also like to give a shout out to Felix. I know he had a pretty tough draw this time, lost to Maxime Cressy, but I really felt like he was headed in the right direction, and he was due for a big run this year. Obviously, he was in Nadal's half of the he was in Nadal's quarterfinal. So I guess him, and I was impressed with Fritz as well. I think his game suits the grass really really well. Yeah, and then obviously you have Ugo Humbert, who's a bit of a wild card, and he can upset some top 10 players early.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you have Berrettini. So I think we have a good 6 or 7 guys who are sort of still behind the Djokovic and the Nadal tier, but they're definitely candidates to win once.
I do keep forgetting about Berrettini because of COVID, but yeah, Berrettini really should be right up there. That's a good point. His game probably is still actually the best suited for me besides Djokovic's. I still think he's second best on the surface. So yeah, okay, we'll give Berrettini the plaudits, but Sinner just got me really excited, so I couldn't not mention that. I think Vansh, he was phenomenal this tournament. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of them, definitely on grass. Okay, have you got anything else to mention about the match? Happy to wrap up there, or?
In terms of the match itself, I thought Djokovic did a really good job at with his just this tournament. He's done a really good job with his first serve. He's gotten to the point where I feel like he's become Federer-esque in terms of his spot serving, which is really hard to do. Mm-hmm. But he's gotten to that level now, and it's almost like just like we were talking about Kyrgios. On his, especially the slice serve that he has on grass, it is so effective, and you can't read it. And it's maybe 105, 107, 110 max, but he's really able to hit the line and corners, and that serve was giving Kyrgios fits all match, and it helped him turn around the center match, and it helped him against Cameron Norrie, and it helped him in so many situations. And then I feel like he's also the way he uses his touch, his variety, his backhand slice in key moments was helping him out in this tournament. When his baseline game wasn't there, against Sinner a lot of the times, it was his forecourt play, it was his net play, it was his spot serving, it was all these other tools that he's had to work on throughout his whole career. And that's something that the big three are so good at, is that they've adapted and they've improved things in their game to where they're made up for whatever half step, or I guess with Rafa it's a bit more obvious than it is with Novak, but they really have so many tools, and they're able to draw it all out and in the big moments, and just use their experience and their will to get over the line. It's so amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting you say it about net play. I actually remember having analysed this whole tournament last year. He was much more partial to going towards the net that year than this year, actually. And I think it does tie into what you've just said about his serving being more immaculate than ever, and not having to tidy up at the net, not having to follow it in, just getting unreturned serve after unreturned serve. I mean, the Federer comparisons are so astute. The guy now has one less Wimbledon title than Federer, and I think people will be very keen to forget that if they're not Djokovic fans. But he's literally one title behind Federer, and he absolutely deserves it the way he was serving this tournament. Like that was the most important shot of the tournament for any guy. For me, Djokovic's first serve. It was amazing when it needed to be. It was so good. I'll cut us off there, Vansh, so I can get the episode done and dusted for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me, as always. Last minute, as always, just apologies, but thank you very much. If you want to catch any of Vansh's work, you can catch him on Twitter at VanshV2K.
You got it?
Yeah, there we go. You can catch some of my work on Twitter at ontheline_Jack. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been the On The Line Tennis Podcast. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.